Hey there, this is Troy Yamaguchi for Plus Two, and today we're going to be talking about some of the exciting new cards from the new set, A Lawless Time. The post-rotation metagame is the Wild West, and we're here to separate the bad and the ugly from the good. So to that end, we'll be taking a look at some of the best new cards just released and explaining what makes them good in a competitive context. We've got 7 clumps of cards to go over here today, in addition to some honorable mentions, so let's jump right in. First up here at the number 7 slot, I want to highlight two what I would call overperformers. These are cards that don't read too crazy, but in practice have been very impactful in specific game states. The first here is Mini Anakin. This guy is a pretty innocuous 2/4, which in this day and age even honestly is good enough to get you there on its own, but his ability to return a friendly unit to hand if you've taken the first attack this phase enables some really strong plays with initiative, which raises the ceiling of your deck. And I think this is just a lot for a 2-drop to be contributing, and I wanted him to be represented on this list. This card has great synergy with ambushers, especially Fireball and Blue Ace, which are in his colors. Mini Anakin is also just good at keeping your ground board damage fresh, so often even on 4 resources, something as unimpressive as using him to just tack 2 extra damage onto an enemy unit, restore 2, and then eject to hand rather than just sitting there to die is card advantage. It's better than what a lot of other 2/4s are doing. The applications for this guy just become wider and wider the more I see him on the board. So for example, you can reset on-play removal units, which blue is known for. So I really like this lad. I think he's cool. The Tree Remembers, on the other hand, is a much simpler card. It just answers all manner of ignorance when your opponent is stapling Eclipse blindly to their turn 1 or turn 2 plays. It kills Chewie. I think most importantly, it imposes a very real condition on pilot leaders to where they just cannot flip onto small ships against blue decks without just totally gambling the game. I think this card is great, at least until people just stop choosing to lose to it, but for the time being, I've been really happy to see it in my hand. It's been an overperformer. Next up, in the 6th spot, we have just 2 solid units with text in some solid colors. Han Solo is, in most games, just Crafty Smuggler with upsides. He is above rate the cardboard, though at the end of the day, he's just a 1-drop, so it's not like he's solo winning you the game or anything. And then Latts, in a similar vein, is also above rate. She's modular, she chips out units in the mid-range fight, she contributes stats that stick around. I think these cards are just good. They're not super exciting, they are just solid Star Wars Unlimited cards that you're never angry to put in your deck. So I think they should be represented here on this list as well. At the 5 slot, we've got some actual power. The Stranger is definitely a card I think that has longevity. He's got a cool design. Essentially, he free trades all units with power equal to HP, and also powers with units 1 less than HP. And the better unit you kill, the bigger body you end up leaving behind. This card currently sees its best use in Talzin, where in conjunction with Talzin's leader ability, it'll also clear everything with 2 power less than HP as well, which if you're keeping track, this is just like the entire relevant card pool. I mean, 3 5s, 4 6s, 4 4s, 6 7s. I mean, this card just kills everything and lives. This card rocks. I expect it to continue to see play for a while, though where exactly it will be homed outside of Talzin is a little bit of a question mark for me. At the number 4 slot, we have Bix Caleen on screen. I have her like kicking out this poor Max Rebo band guy. I'm currently a lot higher on Bix than Max Rebo, and here's why. The only deck I've found making a great use of credits at the moment is Lando. I've tried splashing this Rebo band guy in just all sorts of junk, and this guy is just not real ramp. Like, this guy is not resupply. You cannot think of him that way. It's just not very good to take an entire turn off just to make 1 credit. It's okay to do this to get real ramp because it gets you 1 turn closer to your leader. But if I'm making credits, I really need this function to be attached to real units. So when I'm playing Bix, I'm happy to get the credit, and then I look up and there's this just totally acceptably statted unit on my board that I get to work with for the rest of the game. I haven't given up anything too major on this turn to make the credit. Then, when she untaps, which she does often, I realize, oh hey, there's even more text on this card. I could play a 7 this turn if I really wanted to, which typically I don't because I like having more than 1 card in my hand, but like I could do that if that's what the game called for. So all of this is good. Max Rebus just does none of these things. This is just my early impression right now, but his body being completely irrelevant is just so dissuading. I am not a believer in the Rebus again. This boy is not resupply. I think he's cheeks. At the number 3 slot, we have the tricolor Spectre cards. These cards are incredible. They're great rate, they're fast, immediate value. You do have to jump through an odd hoop to get the use of playing them, but I think they're definitely worth using a splash base on if they're any sort of aggressive or tempo strategy. I think these guys are fantastic. And I mean, it's what it says on the tin. I don't think there's too much more analysis necessary other than just reading their text. They're as good as they read. They're removal stapled to productive bodies that actually do something while they're sitting there. What's important also is that these cards have a real home in Jin Red. They're good cards in a good deck that synergizes with their Rebel trait. You're really just getting everything out of everything printed on these cards. I think these Spectre guys rock, and we should continue to look for opportunities to play them. These guys are awesome. At number 2, here is my candidate for the best big card in the metagame. It's Liberty. I glazed this ship for like 3 consecutive minutes in our week 0 metagame guide, but the spark notes to that conversation is this guy is more or less just Devastator and Avenger fused together. It hits for 1,000,000, it freezes their board. 7 is the perfect amount of HP to remove even, or to make it so that there are even fewer answers to him. The Sentinel is relevant, the upgrade removal is relevant, although usually it's only used for just chipping off EXP coins from damaged units. I think just everything about this card is good. As a function of the format being faster, I think this thing is only really good if it's being ramped out a few turns early, so that might be a mark against the card itself, but it also could just be a mark against the decks that are trying to play a taller strategy that aren't named Landos. So in the context of where this card sees play, I think this card is Mondo broken. I'm not 100% sure if it'll continue to be the house that it is as you get more top end and as you get more decks that are capable of running a top end strategy, but for where we are right now, this card is definitely one of the more powerful cards in the metagame. So that's an outline of the good cards so far. There's one more group of cards I'd like to talk about taking our top spot here. But before I do that, I want to introduce an honorable mentions category. We're going to be calling these cards Lost Cats, in the sense that these are cool dudes that just do not have homes, and I would really like to see someone adopt them. If not in this format, then definitely sometime in the future. And our first lost cat here honestly isn't very cool. He's just lost. It's single reactor ignition. It's super laser blast with upside. It's a good card. It wipes board. It does damage. I think current versions of Control are just not very real. Their card pool is quite barren, and without Vigilance milled, they don't have a way to win the game currently. So, I mean, you could stick a ship, but it's so much worse than just having the mill game plan, I think. But regardless, this card is good. It's Laser Blast with upsides. The previous version was good, and this card is better. So I think this is a card that should definitely be playable in some capacity in the future. I don't know, maybe like someone figures out Control now, but personally, I would not be holding my breath for that outcome at this moment. Another candidate in this category is the tricolored Luke and K2. Luke reads incredibly scary, but then you realize that if your opponent can answer him with their next action, you're really put out. Luckily, this doesn't tend to be the case in this current format. I think it's more of an issue of Luke just hasn't found a good deck that really wants to play him yet. As top end, I think he's often outcompeted just by the idea of clicking aggressive negotiations and ending the game rather than fumbling around with your opponent's board for another 2. But Luke is scary. He does something good on play and he hits for 1,000,000. Great stats. So I do want to see this guy. I think now is a good time to try to find a home for him, but we'll just see if that can be done better than just, again, clicking aggressive negotiations and killing your opponent's base. Realistically, though, I think K2 even might be the more consistent card. If you really squint, this guy is like kind of Poe Dameron. I mean, he blows out certain damaged ground boards in a crazy fashion, but again, he's kind of lost right now. He doesn't have anywhere to be, and I'm hoping that changes one day because he's quite a powerful card in the game states that call for him. And then the final mention in this category is Tear That Ship Apart. It's my pick for the most exciting card that should probably just not be played in any deck right now. This is a side deck card, and it's really only meant to be played in response to greedy unit bomb decks, which I don't expect to be very good. I haven't found anything that is representing that at this moment. The case example I would pick for this card being good would be against something like the blue-green villain Data Vault decks from the previous format. If a deck resembling this comes to exist, and again, I just have to emphasize this is not really where I think we are right now. I have some math on screen indicating the odds for your card to hit something good immediately on 7. And this is acceptable. I think it's really tough for these greedy decks to hold big guys to play around this card, even if they'd like to. I mean, the distribution here of how many bombs they've expected to have been seen by your 7 resource turned, and I'll give you a hint. If they've had 4 cards in their hand all game, it's very unlikely that they've all been their expensive units. I mean, some of these guys have to go in the row at some point for the opportunity cost of them actually being able to cast their spells that keep them in the game. So this card is cool. At the minimum, I think it's really funny to go fishing in your opponent's row for junk, and it's one of the flashier cards printed in this set. Okay, so back to good cards. Let's talk about my pick for the most exciting package printed in Lawless Time. And that is this flood of just really powerful red-yellow villain cards. These cards are individually strong, but they're also working together to accomplish something good. We can start with Volt Scarus Defender, which has legitimately 3 effects. I remember when I was reading it for the first time, I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then the text just kept going for like 2 more clauses. I mean, this card's on attack ability is fantastic. I think you could take away either its damage or its exhaust effect, and it would still be one of the better cards in the set. So this card definitely deserves to be here in this #1 spot when you consider the other powerful cards it can be played with. Outside of him, the Interrogation Droid is just supremely obnoxious. It's discard attached to a body. It's a +1. It has a little bit of an inconvenient cost, being a 2 cost that you're most incentivized to play on 3. So there's a bit of a question as to how you'll fill curve with this guy if you're weaving him in the mid game as well. So that's something interesting to look out for. Shadows of Stygian Prime is incredibly powerful. It's removal that helps you end the game, so that's really good on its own. It's a little bit vulnerable, so luckily the other discard effects in this package helps accommodate for that. Finally, Hold for Questioning. I swear this card is broken. It produces so much inconvenience all in one action. Like, what do you mean I get to exhaust my opponent's most relevant unit and before they get to do anything, strip either their best play for turn or their most relevant utility card in their hand? Like, just try to play around this card. Like, in theory, yes, you could control the symbols that end up on your board, but in practice, it's just incredibly difficult to fully deprive your opponent of value off of this card. And it cheats actions. Like, this card is incredible. And when it comes to working together, all of this discard is not only advancing your strategy, but it's also making your opponent's life way, way worse. Your opponent's ability to hold answers like Constable for Shadows of Stygian Prime becomes much harder when they have 3 cards in their hand. The resourcing decisions becomes much harder. They need to keep their play for turn. They need to keep, ideally, their card that they're intending on helping them win the game, right? And as more discard keeps compounding, if you're looking at your hand, you can throw in something like Garindon. I think this can make for a very strong disruptive tempo strategy, and it's something that we're going to look out for as the metagame develops. I think one thing that's really interesting is that this color combination, outside of Cad Bane, who was like mostly deriving its power from its leader, has just not been very good before. So we can see some new strategies kind of come into the sun that haven't been around. Helping with this as well, like the hits just keep rolling. Like the new additions of BT1 and 000 printed fresh in this set in just the red villain color are giving you just even more cards that are above rate that you're happy to put in your deck. So you have just half a deck full of new cards that read really well, and this is a good place to be for sure. I think the biggest question mark for me is just what leader will be able to play these cards best. I'm definitely considering Sebulba. I'm even looking at someone like Admiral Trench. Like, you get to play this Volt Scarus card. That's pretty good. Like, are you capable of doing anything? I don't know. I think Deidre Miro is another great consideration. She plays behind curve on 3 and 4 phenomenally, and the discard also works with her to put her ability online. I really like this Deidre Miro leader. I think she's interesting. I think she's flexible. She flips on 4, so she's pushing damage, so that helps with this kind of aggressive tempo idea. If you get Cyril Karn involved, you're just like straight pestering your opponent every single turn and then blowing up their base. I think these cards just have to land somewhere. They're very strong. There's something new to be doing, and I really am looking forward to seeing what people come up with them. So that's all we have today. Again, the post-rotation world may kind of look like a gray soup of mid-range slop, and that's because it is, but there's always something to be doing. There's always an answer out there, and it's just up to us to find it. So that all said, I really want to see how the cards on this list perform, and even more so, just what cards I've missed so far as the format matures. That's all for today, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.